this one. Okay. Hello, and very welcome to Dagon, as well from YouTube. This is a live stream, and well, the only thing that I can say now first is that I played the game, a demo of the game, and it wasn't that far away. It was for 3 or 4 days, and it was interesting. And it came out for 1 or 2 days, I'm not 100% sure. And okay. Sorry. And I should only be able to play it with the gamepad, so my gamepad is on the table, you can see it. I hope you can hear me good. Have you tried? Everything looks fine from here. Okay. And just go ahead and start. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
During the game, you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey, others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Okay, circle is you can interact, and and the question mark is for, Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the elder sign, okay. But why do I have a mouse here on Steam? Hey, I don't know, I have a gamepad, I use a gamepad. It should be the left little trigger. And I can also access all the found facts later. They will be available in the main menu. Oh. Okay. It's the same as with the mouse. Yeah. But Lovecraft's letter. Achievement unlocked. The Seeker. Yes, everything is right. As to letters, my case is peculiar. I write such things exactly as easily, as rapidly as I would utter the same topics in conversation. Indeed, epistolary expression is with me largely replacing conversation, as my condition of nervous prostration becomes more and more acute. I cannot bear to talk much now, and am becoming as silent as the spectator himself. My loquacity extends itself on paper. H.P. Lovecraft to Reinhard Kleiner. I try to read the names as they really should be, and I think Reinhard Kleiner is German, because it sounds really German. I should know. On December 23rd, 1917. Throughout his life, Lovecraft penned around 100,000 letters to his friends and fans, out of which about 10% survive to this day. 10%? Yeah, sure. From 1917, there should be more than 100 years now. But the tendency to endless correspondence was a relatively late growth. In youth, I scarcely did any letter writing. Thanking anybody for a present was much of an ordeal that I would rather have written a 250-line pastoral or a 20-page treatise on the rings of Saturn. I have no idea. Selected letters 1929 to 1931, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft would often skip meals to afford postage. Collections of his correspondence have been published in various books, and selected letters can be found online. Some readers consider them his most important legacy. Okay. Oh. It looks good. And I think this, as the game said, will be more of an atmosphere and less of real horror, more like ooh, and not like ooh. Yeah.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Okay. A little melodramatic, but
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
and no elder sign here. Ah. Huh? Ah, morphine. Morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War, 1861 to 1865, and World War I, 1914 to 1918. It was also sold without restrictions until 1940. Morphine. Okay. Well, it was new. Morphine became more popular after the invention of a hypodermic syringe around 1854. Friedrich Zerturner, who first isolated this substance, originally named it morphium, after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. Okay. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the United States. Okay, I can use LB and LT. Okay. Let's try that.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
Okay. And I will try to get every little thing that we can get. And I like the voice. I read a Twitter from one voice, I think it was called, who said that he is the voice actor, and I like the voice. I really like the voice. Lovecraft and the Great War. Dagon was written around a month after the United States entered World War I. Lovecraft was actively interested in its course. He composed many poems in which he gave encouragement to soldiers and commented on the events unfolding in Europe. He tried to enlist in the army, which he mentions in one of the letters to Reinhard Kleiner. Some time ago, impressed by my entire uselessness in the world, I resolved to attempt enlistment despite my almost invalid condition. I argued that if I choose a regiment soon to depart for France, my sheer nervous force, which is not inconsiderable, might sustain me till a bullet or piece of sharpnel could more conclusively and effectively dispose of me. Letters to Reinhard Kleiner, H.P. Lovecraft. But even though he passed the physical exam, his mother prevented him from going to the war. She has threatened to go to any lengths, legal or otherwise, if I do not reveal all the ills which unfit me for the army. I am Providence, Life and Times of H.P. Lovecraft, S.T. Joshi. Yoshi! But I like the style. The style? I can't remember that I ever saw a style like that. I said I can't remember. It's not that it is new.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Okay. This... okay, it's not every time that you have to zoom in or focus, how they call it. I think it's one, or is it? No, I think it's more because in bit 1 we said we, and it's I don't know. The Huns. The Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. Anno Domini. For everyone who doesn't know it, Anno Domini is Latin for before the Lord. I think before the Lord? Before Christ, BC, sorry. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II, or in German Wilhelm II, gave a speech to his troops on 27th July 1900 before they embarked into China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited. Just as 1,000 years ago the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at the German. Okay, if I read something like this, it's no wonder that Germans not that like today. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. Not only H.P. Lovecraft, also history.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone, in a small boat, with water and provisions for a good length of time.
And all this, what we see now, more or less, is the same that was before, that was in the demo. Not everything, like the Huns, the more fine and so on, is new, but the main story was the same.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings.
Achievement unlocked: Solitude in Broken Blue, I think it was.
Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Okay. It's really something else, and I really like it. I thought first it was like, but now. I hope I don't oversee.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
Where was I? I forgot where I was. Sorry. Okay. Okay. This is not well hidden, but a little bit hidden. The return to short stories. Dagon was written in July 1917 and first published in 1919 in The Vagrant on an amateur magazine focused on the supernatural. The story is the first of his stories that introduce an element from the Cthulhu mythos, Dagon itself. A pagan cult worshipped Dagon later appears in The Shadow over Innsmouth, one of Lovecraft's most popular works. 1970 is also the year when he wrote The Tomb, a story about Jervis Dudley, a daydreamer who discovers a mysterious mausoleum in the woods by his house and becomes obsessed with it. These two works mark Lovecraft's return to short stories, writing after he burned most of his attempts at the genre 9 years prior and decided to concentrate on poetry. Lovecraft stated that it was his friend William Paul Cook, a literary publisher and critic, who convinced him to start writing weird fiction again. I have to say, I like the Cthulhu mythos. I'm at the moment in the second game, Cthulhu-based game that I have played. The first was called Cthulhu. I really liked it. Well, if you don't look at the one part, because I still hate this one. Everyone who plays it, I think he knows it. It's the one with the dagger. And now I'm playing on here in the Sinking City in German without English subtitle. Sorry for that. You saw nothing. Yeah. And I really like it. I don't know why I don't like the sea or anything beyond the sea. I really like it for itself. That's true.
But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know, for my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
Okay, this is a bit as before. Well, he's not. It's refined 100%. It's. Sorry. It's more detailed and it looks better, but like, I think he there was not here first, and this 100% not. And the tentacles there on the boat as well, and here the spiderwebs. It looks way better, but this little friend was here before.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air, and in the rotting soil, a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish, and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing, and nothing in sight, save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Wait a second. I have to... Huh. Ah, okay. This... I'm still going up. Okay, weird. Alright. Back here. Yeah. Huh? Ah, okay. Okay, he wasn't... What is this? Is this... Yuck. Well, the origins of Dagon. Dagon seems to be inspired by Fishhead, a short novel by Iron S. Cobb, about unnatural affinities between a hybrid idiot and the strange fish of an isolated lake. Supernatural horror in literature, H.P. Lovecraft. And Lovecraft's dream about a strange island emerging from the ocean and him crawling in the ooze that covered its surface. I dreamed that whole hideous crawl and can yet feel the ooze sucking me down. In defense of Dagon, H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft's interest in the topic stemmed from his aversion to fish and sea smells. In his own words, I have hated fish and feared the sea, and everything connected with it since I was 2 years old. I cannot recall what early experience gave me such a profound and lasting aversion to the sea and seafood. The Dweller in Darkness, Lovecraft, 1927, Donald Van Drey. Or Donald Van Drey. Yuck. I wouldn't go to the boat, because this doesn't look good. But...
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths. So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things.
What is that? Okay. But what is that? Yeah. It looked like... What was it called? The Blob? I think it was called the Blob. Yuck. The mystery of volcanic islands. Volcanic eruptions sometimes result in the creation of islands. Most of them are transient and erode after some time, but some prove permanent. The floating pumice, porous rock created when superheated pressurized rock is ejected from a volcano, can move across long distances and transport barnacles and macroalgae that cling to it. In 2001, rafts of pumice created during the eruption of a volcano near Tonga, Polynesia, eventually reached Australia. Oh, interesting. Do I eat the fish?
For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
There, I saw a tentacle. Or did I? Yeah, there.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
I don't like you. I 100% don't like you. Hello? I'm just waiting for that there's a star symbol like this. Well, let's go on. I think now is the moment where it stopped. I think. I'm not 100% sure.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal.
Okay, as I said, first I want to look. But I don't miss, but I don't seem to miss. Okay. Yep.
All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
What is that? And what is that? It looks like some kind of snake head. But 100% not real. Surreal, but not real. Oh, blue. Bluella? I think it was Bluella. Nothing? Sun? Really nothing? There have to be something. But I don't see anything. Okay.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Yuck. Oh. The horrors of the ocean. The creator of Cthulhu mythos and the fictional underwater city of Chle, I hope it's right, was convinced that life could not exist at the bottom of the sea, because the water pressure would make it uninhabitable. Today we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, the Mariana snailfish, can live about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet, below the ocean surface in never-ending darkness, and at hellishly crushing pressures, hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea levels. Upon clanging at the modern photos of the sea creatures, such as the anglerfish, it's really called anglerfish, and German anglerfish, interesting, the fangtooth or the viperfish, and their truly Lovecraftian characteristics, it's hard not to find some irony in this. Sorry. No. And okay, Lovecraft really had a weird version of things. Uh-oh.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill.
Oh.
I know not why my dreams were so wild that night.
Uh-oh. Game bit rumbling.
But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
Okay.
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Okay. The Loner. Contrary to popular opinion, Lovecraft was not an ever-frowning, eccentric, grumpy loner. He considered himself to be a person who appreciated humor. Isn't humor... Oh no, it's German, sorry. Moreover, he would often meet with friends in his apartment or at various cafes in Brooklyn and Manhattan. At times, his social life was so intensive his work would suffer for months. There was a point when he finally decided he needed to put an end to daily meetings and loitering in New York cafeterias and resorted to hiding at home and reading with the main room light turned off, pretending he wasn't there whenever a friend knocked on his door. He also had another method of deterring his guests, which involved greeting them in a bathroom with an unmade bed visible in the background and piles of paper scattered across the floor. Oh. Interesting, so Lovecraft was kind of me. Good to know.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined.
Moon, tell me where to go. Well, or don't.
Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
I don't think this is a good idea. Well, it's not that. It's not that. Down. I don't know where now. It's not that. Opposite of high. You know what I mean. Uh-oh.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me. An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
Sorry, needed to make a picture. Really? I can't? Okay, I thought this would be... Okay, this would be a solar shift. One of the symbols would be on the moon. Okay, let's go for that.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature.
I highly doubt that.
A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express.
Yes, I as well think that this is not natural. This is far away from being natural. Moon? No.
For despite its enormous magnitude, and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
What was it with the sound? I don't like the sound. It said there is no action.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures.
Okay, that is really cool. Maybe... No? Whoa. It looks so damn cool. Okay.
The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books.
Cool.
Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain.
The middle one, okay, but the other ones are... Okay, the one on the most left side is not, as far as I know, no. But the other creatures...
It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Achievement unlocked: Cosmic Horror Scholar. Notes on here. Storytelling methods. It says. Okay, it is. Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling a story through carvings, the Mountains of Madness, the Nameless City, journals and characters' notes, the Shadow Out of Time, the Haunter of the Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu is a work from... okay. Or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies. Migo and the Whisperer and Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, But let's skip the details in order to not spoil the ending. Okay.
Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a Doré. I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men. Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint. Grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Okay. The Piltdown man. Lovecraft would often use the latest scientific discoveries as inspiration for his works. He would even update his stories at the last moment in order to make sure they reflected the latest breakthroughs. Unfortunately, this method was not without its flaws. After Lovecraft's death, the Piltdown man discovery mentioned in Dagon turned out to be a paleoanthropological fraud. Anthropological, okay. Okay, something with human anthropologists. Anthropologists are these who, how do we call it? Human scientists. They are for tribes and so on. I think, if you don't know what I mean, just Google paleo. What was paleo? I don't know, I have to Google it myself. In 1912, Charles Dawson, an amateur archaeologist, announced that he had discovered the missing link between ape and man, the fossil remains of a previously unknown early human. Years later, they turned out to be a forgery, but by that point, the fraud had already managed to negatively affect the early research on human evolution. In the year when discovery took place, the majority of the scientific community believed Dawson indeed found the missing link. In 1953, Time magazine published evidence proving that Dawson was a con man. It turned out that the fossil at the previously unknown early human consisted of a human skull, a jaw of an orangutan and a chimpanzee teeth. Okay.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
What? This there is not good.
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Okay.
Vast, Polyphemus-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith.
Okay.
about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
Okay. Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up.
I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Yes, I think I should get going. Bye.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
Okay, I fell asleep again.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital,
Oh, good.
brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean.
Achievement unlocked, delirious but free.
In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Ah, there. Whoa. And the journalist. Lovecraft was a prominent figure in the world of amateur journalism. In 1915, he started publishing his own journal called The Conservative, which included political and social commentary, poetry, short stories, and literary criticism written by him and other authors. Howard was a skilled wordsmith, but he also took criticism to heart, which resulted in his decision to step away from writing poetry and concentrate on weird fiction again. H.P. Howard P.Lovecraft, okay. On weird fiction again. For the first time since his teenage years, Dagon, published in 1917, is one of the short stories written during that period. In this example excerpt from The Conservative, the master of horror fiction explains his attitude towards warfare and the idea of world peace. Why any sane human being can believe in the possibility of universal peace is more than the conservative can fathom. Should the entire civilized world agree simultaneously to disarm one or more nations, would undoubtedly retain a secret armaments, and at the proper time take advantage of their more altruistic and less astute contemporaries in a wild career of conquest against unarmed victims. No country is or ever can be above warfare, until the basic impulses of a human animal shall have miraculously changed. Okay, if I understand it right, it's like that no nation would ever possibly say, okay, we have no arms, because this would be a change of heart, because we are still, animals. In Defense of Dagon. In 1921, Lovecraft released a series of 3 essays. The defense reopens. The defense reopens again. The defense remains open. And the final words. Later published as a collection titled In Defense of Dagon, in which he rebuked a series of criticisms directed at this work's some notable quotes. I paint what I dream, and will let the public settle the rest amongst themselves. Mr. Monday asks the raison d'etre of Dagon. I will give it, purely and simply to reproduce the mood. Okay. Mr. Monday asks the raison d'etre of Dagon. I will give it, purely and simply to reproduce a mood. Its object is the simplest in all art: portrayal. There's a physical horror of war, no matter how extreme and unprecedented, hardly have a bearing on the entirely different realm of supernatural terror. Ghosts are still ghosts. The mind can get more thrills from unreal realities than from realities. In the essays, Lovecraft touches upon the topics of atheism, materialism, the quest for truth, and the love of science. Okay, and here, the atheist. Lovecraft considered himself as an atheist, an absolute materialist, which he attributed partly to his early childhood interest in astronomy and science in general. In his own words, I am, indeed, an absolute materialist so far as actual belief goes, with not a shred of credence in any form of supernaturalism, religion, spiritualism, transcendentalism, metempsychosis, or immortality. All I say is that I think it is damned unlikely that anything like a central cosmic will, a spirit world, or an eternal survival of personality exist. They are the most preposterous and unjustified of all the guesses which can be made about the universe, and I am not enough of a hair splitter to pretend that I don't regard them as errant and negligible moonshine in theory. I am an agnostic, but pending the appearance of radical evidence, I must be classed practically and provisionally as an atheist. Sources: Against Religion, the Atheist, writing of H.P. Lovecraft. Mythos, The Mythos and Tales of H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard. H.P. Lovecraft, Robert E. Howard. Okay then, let's get out here.
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Dagon is a fish god. Okay, after this, we will Google and see about Dagon. Because first, sure, next step, drinking. Don't like the sound. Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem, and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretations of his name, as in Hebrew the word Dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's works, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. Cool. Let's get a drink.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Oh, there, okay. August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through this company, Arkham House. Okay. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works, after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. Okay. Interesting. The Mokta. Lovecraft's attempts to find a job in 1925 were influenced by advice he received from friends, among others. He started freelancing for a marketing magazine, where he would write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copywriting skills for yourself. From an ad for Curtis Woodwork. Curtis Woodwork embraces both the usual structural units and the cleverest contrivances of built-in or permanent furniture, such as bookcases, dressers, buffets, and cupboards. Every model is conceived and created with the purest art, rapidest scholarship, and mellowest craftsmanship which energetic enterprise can command, and made to conform rigidly to the architecture of each particular type of home. The cost, considering quality, is amazingly low, and the trademark on the individual pieces prevents any substitution by careless contractors. Source: Lovecraft's Studies, Volume 7, Number 1, H.P. Lovecraft, St. Joshi. Okay, let's look how late it is. Okay, this is good, well hidden. Respect. The scientist. These days, the word scientist is a widely accepted term, but at the time Dagon was published, it was subject to a wide debate. After the author used it in the story, critics pointed out that man of science was a more appropriate term to employ. He admitted, in defense of Dagon, that if Dagon were to be reprinted, he would indeed use a phrase that it suggested. Scientist was coined as an analog to artist, to be used when referring to those studying different branches of science. Yet in the 19th and early 20th century, scientific researchers in Great Britain, the United States, were of the opinion that man of science, resembling the term man of letters, was the only proper choice. Among other things, it was gender-specific, indicating that science was an endeavor to be pursued by only one sex. The term scientist became more accepted only after World War II, and the man of science started fading into obscurity as an old-fashioned synonym. Oh yeah, the fun little debate about rewriting all the worlds that we have now to be not gender specific. I'm not saying anything. I think it's stupid, but okay. It's my thing.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing. I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Okay. Lovecraft on tobacco and alcohol. Lovecraft hated tobacco, even though he used to smoke when he was 12 in order to look and feel like an adult. In his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleinert, he claims that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Celia Brown, dated 13th of February 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I've never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to. Having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blondes or corsets with delicate natural equipoise for evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I'm rather in favor of prohibition. The prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as of any other. Source: The Spirit of Revision, Lovecraft's letter to Celia Brown, Reed Bishop, H.P. Lovecraft, Sean Brennan, and Andrew Lehman, S.T. Joshi. Nope. No, I don't see anything.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Okay, I can't. Okay, can't take this serious. Sorry, it's just looking like thousands of Godzillas going to New York. It's just. Sorry.
The end is near. I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Good idea. Sure. Best idea that you could do after dreaming about something so horrible. Just go there. Sure. Why not? Well, I'm... I could go. Now I know why this room is so... This looks like... Yeah, could you shut up? I can do it as well. This looks like in... Ayahuasca? Yeah. No, yes, in Escape the Ayahuasca. Well, let's do the best thing and open the door.
It shall not find me.
Oh, he jumps out of the window.
God, that hand! The window! The window!
Thank you for playing. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in your own little pool of cosmic horror. We would appreciate if you took a moment to rate Dagon and check out our other games and DLCs. Yeah. That's it? Okay. Continue. What is it?
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Yeah. I know. Open the door.
It shall not find me.
I know. The hand. Ooh, the hand.
God, that hand! The window! The window!
Yes. But... what if I stand here? It seems that nothing happens if I just stand here. Okay. Okay, well, I hope that something would happen if I just, you know, stand there and do nothing. But let me see. I don't think that I... No wonder achievement. I haven't got... Maybe I didn't got all the trivia. Yeah, I found little trivia pieces in the game. Can I see how many trivia I got? Really? The last one. I didn't got the last one. Okay.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
What do not say? Where's the last one? Or am I too far to get the last one? Yeah, I know. Yeah, shut up. Oh yeah. whether it is so well hidden. Okay, maybe after.
It shall not find me.
Yes, I know. Oh, the hand, dirty hand.
God, that hand! The window! The window!
Am I blind? Or is it really that well hidden? Okay, wait. Let's just play from the beginning to start. Yes, exit. And then I know where the thing is with trivia. I really got just the last one not. Is the last one that well hidden or why? Options, I can't jump into any of the chapters. No. Okay, then start. Provide your privacy. Yes, I'm sure.
I am writing.
Yes. Yeah, Lovecraft solo.
Penniless.
If I go now and here. Is trivia back? No. But why is the first one Morphine and not Lovecraft's letter? Oh, it's not. It should be. Or isn't? Isn't it?
Penniless, and at the end. Do not think when you have.
Huh? Okay, weird. This is not.
It was in. The Great War. So.
Is it not in the? It's not in the right.
So.
Yeah. The good thing,
When I.
yeah. Good thing is that it isn't too long, so it don't take too long to replay it back. Okay, some. And then here.
but neither the chair.
Hi, buddy. Here was nothing as well, but good. I wanted to make a screenshot.
When the region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which there was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of
So, here, and then here.
as I crawled.
Wasn't here a sign? Yeah, here. Here was no sign. Nope. Here was no sign as well. Okay.
All day.
If it wouldn't be in this right here, you know, in the right from top to bottom, then I would think that it might
That night.
be random. I don't think it's random because it looks really like you find it in a linear.
By the I know, but
What's
I would.
the word?
Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy.
You know what I mean. So let's go.
I have said that the who's peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternity.
Let's go
Ledges
down
and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy. That it was, but for this,
there. I have a question. Wasn't there said that because of his son, he just was able to walk because it's hard?
the moon,
Just a question. I don't know.
the several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern, but plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size, though the creatures were shown disporting like fish, or of grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as
So, yep, I see creatures coming out. Ooh.
vast, Polyphemus-like, and I think I went mad.
I think
Of
so
my-
too. Go away.
I believe I have
Then I woke.
when I, in my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given once.
No. Ah. First drink.
But
Then the clock.
It isn't. But
So. Now I'm trying to look really precisely. Because even, especially here in this room, it's really hard. Or really, more to say, really easy to not see the symbol. Okay, this was pure luck. This was just pure luck. Elder sign. In another house where people were stripping, he asked questions about the gods and whether they danced often upon rebellion. But the farmer and his wife would only make the elder sign and tell him the way to Nir Ulthar, the dream quest of unknown Kadath, H.P. Lovecraft. Kadath, I don't know. Elder sign is a protective symbol that can be found in various works of pop culture, usually represented by a 5-pointed star with an eye flame, symbol in its center. For example, in games inspired by Lovecraft's writings, it is supposed to ward away all kinds of cosmic horrors. However, this is a later version of a sign, created by the author's friend, writer August Derleth. In our game, we have used the original symbol, as designed by Lovecraft, in the form of a 6-pointed branch, which he sometimes included in letters to his friends. Yeah. And this was Dagon. 100% league to the end with every trivia. And we're just 1.5 hours. It wasn't much. And I think this will come out on YouTube 100%. And I liked that it was less scary, except one thing, and the last one. I liked the I liked the thing with New York. this was one of the things that I liked. And here, credits: BitGolem, game credit by Hubert Murs, marketing, writing, and additional design Maciej Gorny, story written by Howard Phillips Lovecraft. Okay, in 1917. Voiceover here, Martin Owen, warm voice, nice voice, thanks for the voice. Translations: Q-Log SA, Roboto Global, BD Diona, logo artwork, Kuba Sokolsky illustrations. Dagon uses both commercial and free assets purchased and found online. Special thanks Bernadette Silva, Julia Marcello. Haven't I seen Marcella? The name somewhere here? No. Okay. Jarek Kwabniewski, Marian Nitzabitowski, all of you who helped us improve Dagon by providing feedback after playing the demo. Audio, Dark Fantasy Studio under Nicholas Judy, Evil Mind, and Moose Station Productions. Moose Stations. Nice. Yeah. And with this, I say, thank you for watching. I said I wanted to look what Dagon was, but now we know Dagon was God, or a thought of a god as fish and so on, from Hebrew, and yeah. And I have to say, I would. There's a DLC for I can say it, euros 3.79, €3.79, with the 2 stories of H.P. Lovecraft and one of, I think it close the co-op. Wait, let's quit. Let's look at ourselves. Yeah, go away. What's the store page? Yes. Yeah, here. Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft requires a controller in order to play. Yeah. Keyboard, you can't use a keyboard. Mouse. Okay. You can use a mouse, but it is with mouse very hard because every little thing when you go like this in the game, it goes like this, and this is extremely annoying. Dagon the Eldritch Box DLC. Here. Contains ebook version of Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft in several formats, ebook version of Fishhead by Irvine S. Cobb, and audiobook version of Dagon, including additional sounds from the game, official wallpaper, and oh, $3.99. Sorry. And I think yes, I will buy it. Because the game itself was free. I can show you. So now, here, Dagon by H.P. Lovecraft, and yeah, write a review. I will write a review. Here, 24th September. One day. Was released for one day, okay. I thought it was older. Okay. Version of Dagon will be made available in October as a free update. Yeah, I don't need it because I don't have a VR. But the whole game is for free, and it's made so very well, very well. So I will 100% buy the Eldritch box. Little glass bottle, I want to see. Gen Captain William. I'm John Jones who writes this letter. My ship is fast sinking with the treasure on board. I am where it is marked on a closed chart. John Captain William Jones and his party of men on a treasure hunt adventure. The Little Glass Bottle is the second official DLC for Dagon, based on the first surviving story by the master of weird fiction, written when he was 7 years old. Take some rest from cosmic horror and eldritch underwater beings, and experience the other, more humorous side of young H.P. Lovecraft. By playing this DLC, you're helping us found our future narrative projects, blah blah. Embark on an adventure during your coffee breaks. The game can complete in less than 10 minutes. Oh, okay. But to be honest... Oh, okay. Yes. I'm waiting for this. I really like Dagon. I really like Dagon. And like I said, it's for free, and I would say $5. Or in euros, I can only say in euros. I don't know. I think it would be $6.5. I think, I don't know. But it's 100% worth it. But I would go. Yeah, I would go to. Yes, let's say $7. $7, 100% something that you can give. And I played the long version. I have read all the trivia because I wanted it. 5% of this achieved this, okay. Skip the captors, the seeker, first piece of trivia. Escape the horror, cosmic horror scholar. Yeah. And as you can see, I have many other games in here, like Alchemist's Home, that I don't remember now what it is, and many other things. So there will be many more things. Just ignore them. I will play this in English because I made it already as an Indie Saturday feature on the PS4, so I will do it on the PC in German. Yes, I think I will do it next week. But this whole game, this whole Dagon thing, I will do it. I will 100%ly, yeah, upload it on YouTube. Not today, maybe tomorrow. We will see. I hope he is still. Yes, he's still recording. Okay. Yeah. Then, everything that I still have to say is, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. It was not a wild ride, but it was interesting. I liked it a lot, and I'm really looking forward to what the glass bottle DLC will be. I think it will be if it costs something maximum $2. I think, but it will. I would go ahead and say I would also buy it for $3. So, yeah. Okay, but that's now all for now. Thank you for watching again. And yeah, if you like this video, you don't have to give me a thumbs up, but just write it in the comments, or it's better if you don't like it, then write it in the comments and say why you don't like it. Maybe something that I can do better. The problem now is I have so much problems with my microphone because I can't make the volume higher, so you can hear it better, but then you would hear also the cooler of my PC. I don't know why this mic is so how it is, but it is how it is. So, yeah. I have nothing else to say, then till the next time. Ciao.